think actually for every yes I've gotten, I've had 600 no's, whether it's from a brand or whatever, Food Gawker or whatever it is. But it makes those yeses so much more exciting. I think like that's just the drive that you have to have, is you're gonna have setbacks like that. And if you can get up and keep going, then you can absolutely, it can happen. You can make it happen.
That was Stephanie Melchione, and this is episode number 184 of the Chopped Podcast. Hey there, thanks for joining me today. I am Marley of the blog Namely Marley. I am the host of the Chopped Podcast, where we're talking about all things related to food blogging. Of course, I know some of you aren't food bloggers. That's why I love to say that this podcast is created for people just like you, bloggers who love food. Did you know this is a 5-star podcast? I'm so excited about that. Thank you so much for your reviews of the Chopped Podcast. It really makes a big difference. And I wanted to share with you today's featured listener. Jim Clevenger said this on his iTunes review. Thanks, Marley. I got some great tips and motivation from your interview with Brandy Crawford. Keep up the great work. Thank you, Jim. And I feel the same way about Brandy. I always walk away from my discussions with her feeling so inspired. So it makes me feel really good to be able to share that with you as well. Would you like to be a featured listener on a future episode? Head over to iTunes and leave a review today. So speaking of feeling inspired, I have been feeling it a lot lately, and it has a lot to do with my mindset, my visioning practices, and even expanding my capacity to believe in myself. In fact, I'll share this with you all as a form of accountability, because I want to share this picture of myself on Instagram, and I want to add a text to it that says this. She waited her whole life for someone to believe in her. Finally, she decided to believe in herself. Don't you just love that? I love that. It's going to happen someday. Be sure and hold me accountable to that. This is how I feel right now, though. Let me just tell you this. I grew up in very difficult childhood circumstances. I won't go into all the details, but let's just say this. I got very little support in my life. And I think that kind of set the stage for me to look outside of myself for that. Every time I would see successful people, I would always imagine them having the perfect happy family, guiding them along the way, and, introducing them to influential people. And it just seemed like that made things a lot easier for them. But then one day I had an epiphany. I have to believe in myself before I can accept belief from anyone else. In fact, if I think about it, I really have had supportive people along the way, but it was never enough. So what I've realized is that unless you believe in yourself, there's no amount of external belief that can swoop in and fill up that hole in your soul. So finding ways to believe in myself has been such a rewarding experience. Here's what it means for me. I've taken a few moments every day to envision myself doing the work and believing that I'm capable of it and deserving of it. And even when things aren't working out just right, I can feel confident in myself and my ability to call an audible on the line of scrimmage. And for those of you that don't know about American football, an audible is a term for the quarterback changing the play at the spur of the moment based on the circumstances on the field, because sometimes things pan out differently than we expect. So it's good to be able to call an audible and feel confident in that. Anyway, this belief in yourself, it carries you through the good and the bad times. And today's discussion is just more evidence of that. So more about that in a moment. First, I just wanted to give you a quick reminder that if you have struggled with search engine optimization, specifically on the topic of keywords, you will love this webinar that Brandy Crawford and I are doing this week. We are sharing the real how-tos of how to use keywords to grow your food blog. Because come on, don't you hate it when people get into talking about SEO and they'll just say things like, just write great content? That just drives me crazy because it's so subjective, and I probably am one of those people that I need a little bit more, how-to than that. It's easy to find yourself trying desperately to figure out how to do SEO or how to succeed as a blogger by just going to successful sites and trying to reverse engineer it. But that just takes a long time, and then it kind of gets you in that mode where you're not really doing your own thing. So Brandy and I, we are sharing the exact strategies we've used to grow our traffic, specifically using keywords. So we'll be talking about things like keyword research, long tail keywords, and we'll even be sharing a very delicious spreadsheet with lots of hidden formulas to track the success of your keywords over time, because it's amazing when you can see the results of your work and see the progress that you're making. So take a listen to episode number 181 featuring Brandy and I talking about keywords and the webinar and what we'll be sharing. The Smart Keywords for Food Bloggers webinar is happening live on this Thursday, October 24th at 1 p.m. Central Time. Claim your spot today by heading to chopped.academy/smart. Okay, on to today's discussion. Today I'm talking with Stephanie Melchione. She's of the site The Cozy Cook. And there is a reason, a very specific reason I shared about fostering self-belief earlier. Because when you listen to Stephanie talk about the belief she had in herself as a food blogger, even in the face of multiple rejections and setbacks, you will realize the power of self-belief. Stephanie talks about the many rejections she received from Food Gawker because of her photography. But rather than letting that get her down, she buckled down and she worked even harder. You'll hear how Stephanie attended food blogging conferences, she read books, and she just became a sponge learning everything she could about food blogging. And I also think she had this mindset of experimentation and trying different things, which I so admire. It's so easy to get into this, I want this specific formula for how to do these specific things, and we forget how to experiment. And Stephanie really has a great mind for experimentation. So I was very inspired by that. Stephanie used her self-belief and her determination and her experimentation to grow her food blog to the point that she actually was able to quit her full-time career as a business analyst. It's such an inspiring conversation. It's full of rich nuggets of truth, tactics, very practical things to do, and just downright fun. I love that in a person, the willingness to work hard, but to laugh often. I don't know. I just think that's such a powerful combination. I love it not just for a discussion purposes, but also, on a day-to-day basis. Don't we want to have fun with what we're doing? I think it's so important. So if you're ready to feel the self-belief and the inspiration of what it takes to work and grow through good times and the bad, you will love today's discussion with Stephanie. So you know what? Let's just get straight to it. Here's today's featured discussion with Stephanie Melchione. Hey everyone, I'm so happy to have Stephanie Melchione. She's of the site The Cozy Cook, and she is on the show today. Hey Stephanie, welcome to the Chop Podcast.
Hi, Marley. Thank you so much for having me.
I am so excited to be talking with you right now. We just had a little pre-conversation, and we are just on the same page on so many things. I'm looking forward to sharing it with everybody.
Exactly.
Also, I just have to tell you, I love the name of your site because just saying The Cozy Cook, it just makes me feel all cozy and warm.
Oh, thank you. Well, third time's a charm. It wasn't the first name I chose. So
let's talk about that. I'm always curious to hear about people's, the story behind their blog origins. Can you talk a little bit about how you got yours started?
Absolutely. So I wanted to just dive right in. I didn't want to think about a cool name. I didn't want to think about what platform I was going to use. I just wanted to start right now.
Oh, I feel you. I'm the same way.
So I used Blogspot, and my blog name was my first name dot my last name at blogspot.com, and it was terrible. No one can really pronounce my last name, first of all, and it had no ring to it. There was, no substance to it. It was just my name. Not very fun or original. So I did that for a while. I eventually ended up switching over to the Weebly platform. I don't even know if that still exists. And if it does, I would not recommend it. And so from there, I think my husband was like, oh, it'd be cool if you could have the name like the Chopping Blog. Because like the chopping blog, but that was taken. So I just added an S at the end. So it was the Chopping Blogs. And oh my gosh, I think I had that for like a year, and I'm so embarrassed. I don't even like saying that out loud. So I eventually decided that I should probably give some thought to the name that I was choosing.
Yes.
And gotta say, I think my husband came up with this one too. But by then I at least knew I was kind of focusing on comfort food. So we were trying to think of what you would kind of associate that with. And so that's how The Cozy Cook finally came to be.
And I'm surprised when you went to go search for that, it was available.
That one was. I don't think cozycook.com was taken. I think that's where they sell kitchen appliances or something. But so the wasn't. So I just took The Cozy Cook. So
I see. And in some, like, for example, if it was another blog, you probably wouldn't want to go with that. But since it was something kind of related to kitchens, but not a blog, then that works.
Exactly. I was like, you know what, that'll be okay, I think.
Yes, exactly. I love that you had these three experiments with different names and different platforms because I don't know, like even though you say you're kind of sounds like you're trying to say you're impulsive,
Yeah.
there was some thought that went into it, so that's good.
Yeah, I mean, really, I made every mistake in the book in the beginning anyway. I just did no research. I just wanted to take my cell phone out and take pictures of food, and at the time, I thought the food pictures were fabulous, and I just didn't understand why Food Gawker kept saying no to me. Just didn't understand
Okay,
it.
so we're going to get to that in a minute, but first I
Sure.
want to ask you, so you must have been wanting to start a food blog for a reason because you had a passion for food.
Yeah, so it started because I was creating like Word documents with recipes on them and like printing them out and bringing them into work and giving them to people like a weirdo.
Oh,
And
I think
I
that's
needed
sweet.
I needed a hobby, clearly. I was playing too much Candy Crush and I needed something else to do. So I was doing this and I was taking pictures of food and putting it on Facebook. And my friend actually said, you should start a food blog. And I had no idea what a food blog was, but I decided to look up what a food blog was. And I was like, that seems fun. Yeah, I'll do that. So it was somewhere where I could put my energy. I didn't have any kids at the time. I had extra time on my hands and I needed somewhere to put that energy.
I love this. Like, hearing you say that kind of reminds me of when I was in high school. I used to actually just like to write down recipes. Like it would be, I'm not doing anything original, but I would just hand write a recipe from a book or whatever that I really liked.
Exactly. It's like I can't even say that was this passionate cook necessarily, but I did need to throw something together for dinner at night. So, I was interested enough in learning how to pull some recipes together.
I
Easy
saw
ones.
someone somebody recently followed me on Instagram. Sorry, I got a frog in my throat. And she said that her description said food is my superpower, and I feel like I've kind of joked about that as well. Like if I could have a superpower, it would be food.
Well, it's amazing because the more, now that I've been doing this for 6 years, I'm still learning how to cook. I'm still learning how things come together in the kitchen. So I definitely give food a lot more credit than, just kind of throwing some stuff together and putting it in a pan like I used to. Like it really, it can be very rewarding once you actually learn what you're doing.
Yeah, I completely agree. And I think it's such an important part in our life, knowing what food to eat and having it ready or whatever. I think
Hmm.
it makes a big difference, I think. So it is a good superpower to have.
Absolutely, especially when you're feeding your family or you're feeding your friends.
Yes. So okay, so let me just get back to this impulsive thing because I really love this about you. I feel like it's you and I are kind of kindred spirits in that way. And because I think so many people like, you put I don't know. I don't want to criticize people who are the opposite. I just want to say there's some value to just jumping right in. And it sounds like that's what you did.
Yeah, I would say, there are ways, in some ways you're really going to only learn by doing. And
Yes.
you can read all day long and I should have done more reading, but I also learned a lot from making mistakes firsthand and really
Yep.
just, I learned by doing, and I think
Me too.
it kind of seemed like a longer road to get to where I was doing things the right way. But if that's what it takes, there's still value in it. Like you said, there's definitely value in just jumping in and doing it. And I think that's a good way to figure out if you are in it for the long haul or not. If you're making all of these mistakes and you can work your way through them, then you can do it.
So if you're sitting down to play a board game for the first time, I imagine that you and I would be the same kind of people in that some people want to sit down and read all the rules, and I want
Exactly.
to just play a practice game and then
Yes.
and ask questions like what happens when this happens? Oh, the rules say this,
That's
right?
exactly how I operate. Yeah, that we would be doing it the same way. That's
I
true.
mean, come on, let's just get into it and let's start playing.
Let's just do it. Yeah, I don't.
Let's do it.
You're right. I was playing a game recently, and someone had this rule book out, and she's all about reading the rules, and I'm just like, man, let's just go.
Come on, we're sitting here forever. Let's get started.
Exactly.
I love it. So you're taking pictures with your camera and you're submitting them to Food Gawker because you think they look awesome. And what happened?
They're the best pictures ever, and I don't understand. They must just hate me because they just keep saying
It's
no.
yes, that's not
And
right.
I think I said it was like 193 no's I got. And I just didn't understand it. And it's funny because obviously now I can look at those pictures and say, yes, those pictures are terrible. But, it took me a long time to develop that eye where I could It's still difficult. It's still
Yeah.
difficult to look at your work and take a step back because you're attached to your own work and you're the
Yeah.
one who styled it and you're the one that put it together. You're the one that cooked it. So you have like an emotional attachment to it. So it's difficult to take a step back and look at it from, someone else's eyes who has no attachment to the photo whatsoever.
Right.
Um, so anyway, yeah, what happened was they finally ended up giving me this comment on why they kept saying no to me on this one particular picture. They were like, "Stop submitting this picture. You
Oh.
just it doesn't have any bouquet." And I'm like, "What the heck is that?" So I googled the term, and it basically means blurred background. And I thought, well, how do I get a blurred background? I can't get that on my cell phone because back then,
Back
the
in the day.
back
Yeah.
in the day, the cell phones weren't doing that. So then I finally learned that I would need to get a DSLR camera. So then I had to research cameras. I think I started with a Nikon. I eventually ended up switching to Canon. I'm not even sure why, but anyway, I thought, all right, now I have the camera. Now it's all going to come together. I just have to point, click, there we go. And they're going to start saying yes, obviously. And they
Yeah.
didn't. And I was like, this is crazy. What's going on? So eventually I was like, you know what? I think I'm going to actually have to do some reading on, and that's where I learned you have to shoot in RAW, or at least, it's highly recommended to shoot in RAW. I learned eventually how to edit in Photoshop, and they finally said yes to one picture, and I thought I had it made. I thought from now on they're going to say yes to every picture, and of course they didn't. Um, Photography was so hard for me,
Me
and it's
too.
still so hard for me. And
Yeah.
but if it wasn't for that comment that they gave me, I wouldn't have even. That's when I really started researching photography, like really researching what's a macro lens, what's food photography, like what equipment do you need? There's a whole thing. It's not just grabbing your camera and taking a picture of what's on your plate. So
Yes.
it was a huge learning experience. And honestly, without it, I don't know if I ever would have figured it out.
You
I think
and
I
and when you say it, I'm imagining it's the big umbrella. Like you may not have even figured out food blogging in general.
exactly. I think because it really for me started with just this need to get accepted by Food Gawker, and not just once. It was now they have to accept me every time. So
Yes.
it was just I couldn't stop until like that was the case. So that's really what started it all for me. And then from there, other things came after it. Learning curve regarding SEO and keywords and um, having a new site design. All that stuff came kind of after that. But the photography piece is what like I was honing in on it first.
So your big aha moment was, okay, I've got to get this photography thing figured out.
Yeah, and I still don't take the best pictures, but at least that's what kept me hooked. I enjoy it. That for me is an enjoyable part of the process. So that's kind of just what kept me in the game. It certainly wasn't, oh, I'm really interested in SEO. I mean, now I am, but it wasn't
Right.
that was keeping me hooked. It was definitely the picture portion
And
of it.
could you imagine then if you would have used those, I think you said 192 rejections from Food Gawker to make you say, I just think I can't do this. I'm just done. I can't do it anymore.
Right. Yeah. No, it actually motivates me more. It makes me want to, go for it more. Of course, there were times where I wanted to quit, of course. And I remember my husband saying, "Nope, you're not allowed," because he knew I was onto
Oh,
something, and he was so supportive. He's just so supportive of the whole thing, and he really gets it. Sometimes you have to go to like a conference for someone to really get it, or talk to another food blogger for someone to really get it. But because we have conversations every night, like he really gets what I'm doing, and he knew I was onto something, and he just couldn't couldn't allow me to quit, and I don't think I would have allowed myself to either, but there were times where I sure thought it sounded like a good idea.
this is just too hard, right?
Yeah.
Like, forget it. I just
Oh
can't
yeah.
do this.
Well, it's hard when
Oh,
you're working a full-time job too, and
oh,
you're
right.
using all of a sudden, like, it takes up more and more time. It's like anything else, there's a lot more that goes into it than you originally think.
Well, I just love your husband. That is just so nice. I mean, to have somebody in your corner like that makes such
Yeah,
a big difference.
it's huge. Yeah, absolutely.
Oh, it's huge. Yeah, that's amazing. And so you basically kind of buckled down and said, "I'm going to figure this out." Like, you got a DSLR. You started, what was it? Going to online, looking at how to use it.
Yeah, I was researching online. I bought I bought a photography book, so I was reading this photography book, and just again, like I would have my book out and just try to take the information in the book and put it to, use at the time. As far as lighting, I'm trying to figure out what kind of lighting, if I would do natural or artificial. I ended up switching to artificial because now I'm back to natural. But when I was working my 9 to 5, I could only shoot at nighttime. So I was,
Right.
trying to figure that out. It was the book was. I wish I could think of the name, but it was. I just don't want to pronounce her name wrong. But her Recipe Tin Eats, is
What's
it?
it? Recipe what?
Recipe Tin Eats is her blog. Is it?
Oh,
I think it's
okay.
Nagi or Nagy. I'm not quite sure how to pronounce her first name, but she put out a photography book that really helped me.
Oh, that's great. So it was very specific to food photography.
It was, yes. Her photos are amazing. She's my inspiration. She's awesome. Yeah.
I know who she is too, and I her name is not coming to my mind either. I'll put a link in the show notes for a page for people who are interested in
Yes.
checking out that book.
Yes. Yes. Like I just go to her site to look at her pictures. I'm just like, she's so good.
Some people I just can't get over the styling and
Yeah.
just the amount of work that goes into probably just that one photo is
Yes.
amazing to me.
Absolutely. Right.
We do food photography and like my husband and I we do it together and um I have just elected to go towards a style that is minimal props
Right.
just because I can't it's like all that stuff overwhelms me. I can't take it,
I
but I
agree.
love it. It's beautiful.
Right. It's easy to look at it when it's done, but it's hard to
Yes.
get there. And I'm with you. I've
Yes.
tried mimicking other people's styles because, I love what they do, but ultimately I find, that's just not my style. It's not working for
Yes.
me, and it's not really working for my readers. And I think I'm finally figuring out what types of shots they like, which is kind of like more of a close up view of the food, not so much a highly styled, overhead.
Yes.
It's more like really kind of in the food, not so close that you don't know what it is, but,
Yeah.
just like you want to take a bite out of it.
Yeah, I want to smash my face in that.
Exactly. Exactly. Right. That's the
We'll have to
feeling.
call that it's smash your face food photography.
Does very well on Pinterest. Yeah, exactly.
Oh, right.
Yeah.
Yes. Because most people are probably looking at it on their phone anyway. And so
Right.
just having that picture so close up, it really entices people.
Yeah, it's like, you like I said, you have to know what the food is. It can't be so close, but it's gotta also just make you just drool. If I do the high overshot ones, and they look pretty, but they don't make people hungry as much. Or at least my audience doesn't seem to get as hungry as when it's really just like, here is the casserole, like here is a big spoon in it.
Yes. And the crust, you can see it flaking.
Exactly.
It's right there.
Exactly.
Yes.
Exactly. Right. Right.
Yes. I love it. And so, honestly, that's a really good thing to know. Like this is what my audience like. It may be that I have Bake Harvest as another site where I love her food photography.
Yes.
People who go to her site probably love they are more intrigued at looking at the photos than they are maybe even trying the recipe. Who knows? I don't
Right.
know. I
Right.
just know that I go to her site because I love to look at the photos. And so I'm sure there are plenty of people who do that, but knowing what your audience wants is so important.
Yep, and that took me forever to figure out that what works for someone else is not going to work for me necessarily. Or what you learn at a conference or what you learn on a podcast or read online, take all of it with a grain of salt and apply it to what works for you. Maybe take pieces of that information, but it might not
Yes.
be able to just be, copy and paste. This is going to now work for me because, I heard it on this blogger does it, so it's going to work for me. It just doesn't work that way.
Yeah, I think it's about finding those nuggets, those little,
Yes.
you're searching for gold, you're panning in the river and you find these nuggets and that's what works for you. I
Yeah.
think you got to take it and run with it.
I totally agree. And I think that if you're sitting down and listening to, again, maybe a presentation at a conference or something, what sticks out to me and motivates me, or those nuggets, are going to be different for every person.
Oh, that's just true. That's so good. I love it. Okay, so when was the point that you realized, okay, you're starting to get your food photos accepted on Food Gawker and things are starting to change? Was there a moment when you realized, oh, hey, this could be my job?
No- I'm such a conservative thinker, and I never like to count my chickens. So
Yes.
I've been kind of, this whole ride has been, I don't want to get ahead of myself. Like, so it started, I was
Yeah.
making $20 a day. Then it was $50 a day, and it kept growing. And I kept thinking, well, eventually, this isn't going to keep growing. Like I don't want to get excited about this too much. Like I'm excited and it's motivating me, but, and then, yeah, one day I sat down at my spreadsheet I and started doing some math, and I'm like, if this does keep going, I could actually maybe leave my job. That is crazy. So I set a goal for myself, and every day kind of was checking in like, okay, I'm this percent into the year and this percent to my goal. Like, am I actually going to
Oh,
meet this goal? Am I going to be able to do it? And I was able to meet it quicker than I thought, and said, you know what, like at this point, my job is almost keep getting in the way of me growing more because it's a full-time
you have a
job.
time limit. Yeah.
Exactly. And so, and I had all these things that I wanted to do and I wanted to dive into just as far as learning or just improving my photography again too, like being able to do it in the daytime and also not having to work a 9 to 5 and then come home at night and work on the blog. I now have a 3-year-old, so I wanted to be able to have that time for family. And so it
Yeah.
was more than just a financial move. It was like a life like improvement overall, like a life balance, because something had to give. I was working way too hard.
Oh,
So
I can't even imagine
yeah,
a child and a job and a food blog.
yeah. I remember one night actually coming home on a Friday night. My daughter was 1, not sleeping at night. I was exhausted, but Friday nights, that's when I would, usually take pictures for a post. So I was trying to throw a post together and I was, I guess, styling it with I was trying to add some glisten, I think. So I had vegetable oil out and I spilled a quart of vegetable oil all over the floor, knocked over my tripod, smashed my $600 lens and my however much camera.
Oh
And
no.
I just went in my room and cried. And I was like, this
Oh,
is just, I can't do this. And I think we all have those moments. And the next day, I brought my camera in to get fixed, bought a new camera so that I could take pictures that night. Got insurance on that one, by the way. I didn't have insurance on the first one and kept going. And I think like that's just the drive that you have to have is you're going to have like setbacks like that. And if you can get up and keep going, then you can absolutely, it can happen. You can make it happen.
it's almost like success is the art of learning how to fail because you're going to fail,
Mhm.
and just being prepared and knowing how to push yourself through that is important.
Yeah, I think actually for every yes I've gotten, I've had 600 no's. Whether it's from a brand or whatever, Food Gawker or whatever it is, but it makes those yeses so much more exciting.
Yeah,
And
they're that much more sweet. Yeah.
yeah, like small victories are awesome. I'm like, celebrating small victories like your first acceptance to Food Gawker or, when my site finally got redesigned, like those are you have to celebrate those milestones because that's going to keep you going and keep you motivated and excited.
Did you celebrate when you actually eventually quit your job?
Yes, we did. It's funny though, because it's not like for me, it wasn't this like euphoric feeling like I quit my job. Now I'm actually feeling it more now because, you have a job to do. You quit your job. Now you really have a job to do. You have to actually make this, work. And
Yes.
so, again, like I'm kind of conservative in my, again, didn't want to get ahead of myself. Like I got to make this work. But now that I've had, over a year and being able to do it, since leaving my job. Now I'm at the point where I'm like, you know what, you're doing it. I've grown 150% since leaving. My confidence is there. This is working. You did the right thing. There wasn't a doubt that I was doing the right thing. It was just, it's, I was just so focused, I think, at the time that I'm like, you know what, Monday morning, get up, let's go. Like, it's time to work.
Yes. Can you talk about the goals that you established? I mean, even before you quit your job, it sounds like you had some goals going on, but when you quit your job, you kind of set a goal in mind. Can you talk about that?
Yeah. Goals for me, I have two types. The goal in leaving my job was definitely a financial one. So I knew basically what I had to average financially in a day on the blog to be able to leave. And I had to factor in, obviously now I'm not going to have benefits. And so my goal was basically to, like make more than I was making at my full time job to compensate for the fact that I'd have to pay for benefits and all that boring stuff. Um,
Yes.
but I knew what I had to make in a day and I knew how my traffic panned out throughout the year. And so I was able to project realistically what would happen and then which I thought would exceed, my financial goal. And I just kind of needed time to make sure that was really going to be the case. And then I woke up one morning and I was like, you know what? Today's the day. Like, not that I'm going to go march in and tell my boss I'm leaving or anything like that, but today's the day I'm making this decision. This is happening. This needs to happen. I know that I'm making these, like, my financial goal. I know I'm making what I need to be making every day. Quarter four is always really big for me,
Yes.
especially in the comfort food. Like, people are just making a lot of, cozy meals in the cold weather and for holidays and whatnot. So I hadn't approached quarter four yet, and I was already, exceeding what I needed to be averaging on a day, um, to be able to leave my job. So I just woke up one day and I was like, you know what? Enough is enough. You're stalling. Stop stalling. It's time. And I texted my husband first thing in the morning, and he wrote, you know what? We've seen enough from the blog. It's time. I agree. And so I actually emailed my parents and my husband's parents and my sister-in-law and my sister. I emailed them, kind of like, I didn't want to scare, especially my dad, like, oh, you're going to leave your job. What are you thinking? You've been there for 10
Yes.
years. You went to college for this. What are you doing? So I tried to explain how I had thought this through and how it made sense, and it was going to give me a better work-life balance. And their support was just unbelievable. And I couldn't do it without their support, because I just didn't
Right.
want to feel guilty or irresponsible, especially now that I had a daughter. So their support was just immediate. And so then I planned out how I would let my bosses know. But anyway, yeah, the goal was, I'm like going off on a tangent now, but the goal was based on a daily income that I needed to make. So
And what did you do before?
I was a business analyst at an insurance company before.
Oh, so obviously analytical, right?
Yes, yep, which is handy because I definitely, that comes into play now as well.
Well, and I was going to ask you, like, it's one thing to set a goal, but it's quite another to track and actually meet it. Can you talk a little bit about like what are the things that you did to kind of help yourself track that?
Yep. So I mean, really, it was, I would go online every day and just see what I made the day before, what ad money came through. And so I would just like plop that into a spreadsheet, and basically had like an equation, which was, you need to make this much this year, and this is how close you are. And so every day I would just update the metrics and just see like how close I was to the goal, where finally, like, just math, basically, it was like making sense. Like, if this, I'm confident enough that I'm this much through the year, and I'm going to keep increasing as we go to quarter four, and I'm already making the daily allotment that I need. So um, it was just kind of like very mathematical, just like, literally, is this going to add up to what I need to
Subtraction.
make? Exactly.
Yeah.
Right.
But it's one thing to have a goal like that, and it's another to like, how did you make that happen? Like, obviously, photography was a big deal for you. Were there other things that helped you reach that goal?
Yes, definitely. So I had an audit last quarter, and that's a good example of what you don't know.
Yes.
So I had Casey Marquis audit my site, and that was extremely, extremely helpful, because I kind of like knew some of this SEO information and I thought I was doing it, but to have someone really walk you through one of your posts and say, I really wasn't doing it. I wasn't filling out my alt text fields right. I
Me
wasn't
neither.
really doing process shots. Um, I wasn't answering questions that people would have. I mean, I don't get that many questions on my blog lately. Like, I get comments, but not so much questions. And I think that's a result of being able to answer those questions in, not only in the post, but in the notes section of the recipe card. So I think his help really helped me just address and go back and do a lot of just cleaning up all of the blah, blah, blah on some of my old posts. Just a lot of talking.
Yes, me
Um,
too.
yeah, and I used to think that was the thing, and it used to be the thing, but
Yep.
um,
I used to rack my brain around the thing. Like, how can
oh
I add
gosh.
more to this?
Yeah, I remember thinking like, okay, now it's time to talk. Like, what am I
Yes.
going to talk about? It's so now I'm
Yes.
just like deleting the whole thing.
Uh-huh.
Um,
Although sometimes I save those stories because I might share the story related to that post on Instagram. Does that make sense?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Yeah, that's the perfect place to do that.
Yeah, some of those stories are actually kind of cute and I like them a
Yes.
lot. So I would actually, I have co-schedule, so I just copy and paste them into my Instagram on the co-schedule at the bottom of the post.
Okay. Yeah. Yep.
But if you have later or whatever you use to schedule to Instagram, just go, copy that story and save it. When I'm talking about a story, like maybe I said, oh, my grandmother used to make these cookies and blah, blah,
hmm
blah. And it's a really nice, sweet story. I just share that over on Instagram.
That's such a good idea because that's where I
Thank you.
struggle on Instagram. I'm like, I don't know
Me
what to
too.
say. This is, so that's a great idea. I kind of wish I had thought of that, but I still have plenty of posts to clean up, so
Me
I'll
too.
I'll take that help for sure.
It's an ongoing process, isn't it?
Oh my gosh, it's just will drive you crazy. I just try to attack it in bits and pieces, and eventually maybe. And then it's funny because what you think you're doing perfectly now, you'll look back in a year and be like, "What was I thinking? This post needs to be fixed."
Yes.
But so the audit helped me a lot. I tried to take some time and go online and take some SEO courses. There's hashtag Jeff. There's now SEM Rush has some good podcasts. I think just learning as much as you can learn. And definitely food blogging conferences have been huge for me. That's just a really good place to go for information and inspiration. So that's helped. Um, and then, there's so much nitty gritty that goes into it as far as, growing, learning how to do your keyword research, where to use hashtags. Redoing old pins has been huge for me. So, we're always learning as we go. So I think as long as you're always just trying different tactics and different things and seeing what sticks. Again, learning your audience, how I just got better at learning my audience and what they liked from me, and finally like catering my recipes around keywords that people are looking up is a huge thing that I
Yeah.
wasn't doing. Um,
Right.
so just using those kind of tactics helped me grow and is continuing to help me grow for sure.
So instead of doing like a pine nut and chocolate tart that you felt inspired to make, you might actually create a chocolate ganache tart or whatever a keyword that people are searching for.
Exactly, right. Because, even if you don't land on page one of Google, you might
Yeah,
not. You hope you do, but at least it's something people are looking up. If not, if they don't find you on Google, they may find you on Pinterest.
right. Because Pinterest is its own search engine as well. So,
Exactly. And if they're looking it up on Google, they're likely looking it up on Pinterest. And of course, you can, do your own keyword research in Pinterest itself too. But, and I actually do adjust my descriptions for Google differently than I do in Pinterest. Just sometimes the keywords are slightly different. And I think like um, with slight adjustments, I have a spreadsheet and just basically keep them separate, trying to just be a little bit tactful, and just everything is just done with such intention, like the opposite of what I did in the beginning.
yeah.
Just now it's
Right.
just very intentional.
So one way I do that is I actually go like, let's just say if you're doing potato salad, I actually go into Pinterest and I'll type in potato salad and then I'll see all these words come up and I try to include those in the description. Is that how you do it?
Exactly. Yes.
Yay.
Yep. Yeah. Yeah. And and of course they get repetitive, like you know potato salad, easy recipes,
Yes.
idea, the keywords repeat, but I mean, at least you're trying. And it might actually be a keyword that comes up that's in your recipe, like an ingredient that you wouldn't have necessarily put in the description, but will now because it pops right up.
Yeah, and I also think it's important to say like don't use a keyword that doesn't apply to your recipe. Like
No,
if it says eggy potato salad, and I don't cook with eggs, so I wouldn't put that because I don't want
exactly.
people coming to my page and then they don't like what they see because it isn't what they were looking for.
Exactly. You don't put it on just to have them find you. You put it because,
Yes,
for the user. You don't want to trick them.
right. Yes,
Exactly. Right.
you don't want
Yep.
the traffic just for the sake of the traffic. You want that to be purposeful and, like you said, and
Exactly. And they're just going to leave anyway and not come back.
yes,
So
exactly, exactly. What about email? Do you use email as well?
I do. I don't have, honestly, a great like tactic as far as getting new email signups. I don't have a pop up because I don't really like the pop ups on other sites. So I don't have one. I don't know. I at least want to design a pop up that it's going to offer something back, like a meal plan or If you sign up, I'll send you a meal plan or something. But
Yes.
that's something I haven't done yet. So I've done a big cleanup of I try to do like recurring cleanups of my email list. So I think right now I have about 10,000 on the list, but the open rate is like 40%.
Would you
So
say 20 or 40?
I think it's 35 to 40,
Oh, that's great.
but I do clean it up. So if people aren't looking, they just I
You get
send
bumped
them
off the
and you
list.
get bumped off, and I'd let them know if you want to re-sign up, you can. But it doesn't look like you. I don't remember what the email says. It's a nice email. It says like, if you want to re-sign up, just click this link and you can re-sign up.
Oh, I mean, I understand. I sign up for so many things and then I end up, I open the first couple and then I don't after
Yeah,
that. So yeah, it's
right.
understandable.
And I use Mailchimp, and it's expensive to
Yes,
maintain.
that's right. You don't want to be paying for people that
Exactly, that aren't clicking or never will click or aren't interested. Yeah.
Yes, exactly. So I love this. What I'm hearing you say is that you created this goal of you wanted to make so much money per day as proof that you could quit your job. And even then after your job, you kind of accelerated like, okay, now I've quit my job, so I can accelerate this goal. I want to, I think you said you actually increased by 150% after you quit.
Yes. Yep.
Wow.
And it's funny because someone did tell me, they were like, "You're still not going to have enough time to do what you want to do," and
Is that
they're
true?
so right. It's absolutely true. Yes, of course. Like, gosh, yes, and that's where it's kind of like you have to think about who you want to hire. VAs. I actually use Nicole Barker
Yeah.
for my Pinterest. She's phenomenal. She's my VA for Pinterest, and she is phenomenal.
Yes.
Um, and then that's the only VA I have right now. But anyway, yeah. So I think what I was able to attribute the growth to this year was shooting in natural light, learning more about my audience, cleaning up old posts, sprucing them up, maybe republishing them. And for sure, again, the Pinterest strategy that I'm using, if something was successful in the past and has kind of dwindled down, if I redo the pin and redo the keyword research and create at least one new pin for that post, it has a very good chance of doing well and getting more attention. So I
Oh,
did that for a bunch of posts, and it really worked out for me. It took some time, but it really did well.
so that's good to know. So, because we
Yeah,
we all have had those posts that just take off, and
right.
and then now it's like crickets. So you're
Yes.
saying just go in there and put a new photo,
Yeah, actually, I used the same photos
okay,
for most of these. I just created, new pins, maybe changed the way the pin looked a little bit. Like maybe I'd use two pictures instead of one, or one picture instead of two, whatever.
yeah,
Um, Redo the description and redo the hashtags. And I mean, one of them went viral, and I was like,
nice.
wow, like that's amazing. I'm going to keep doing this. And um,
That's
and
great.
the other thing that I'm finding to work really well is using. So I hire out my videos as well, and they're tasty style videos. And
Yeah.
so I just learned last week actually how to create a long pin with and I know this is already happening on Pinterest. I'm almost even late to the game on this, but creating like the video part on the top and the still image on the bottom.
Do you use a PowerPoint presentation or how do you do that?
I do that so I didn't know how to do it. So I actually went into the Facebook group, Food Blogger Central, and I looked
Yes.
up like video long pin or something and found a forum with a link to YouTube video telling you how to do it in Photoshop. So I actually use PicMonkey and Photoshop to do it, but you can use Canva and Photoshop. And I think there's a bunch of different ways you can easily do it.
Yes. That's what the tip I got, I think was from Brandy Crawford, and she said that she used well, it's a it's PowerPoint, but it's basically the Keynote is the Mac version of that, so it was a Keynote slide. So it's kind of interesting how easy it was
Oh,
to do
yeah.
it.
Yeah, it took me just, I mean, now they take me minutes to make, and they're doing great. They're doing really well. And again, I was lucky to have one of them go viral, so I'm seeing a big spike right now. And so definitely paying a lot of attention to Pinterest, because I think that for food bloggers, most of our traffic comes from Pinterest and Google. And so I definitely decided this year to really hone in on Pinterest and make that a priority, because I really wasn't
Yes.
before. I wasn't doing too much. I was just kind of I was creating one pin per post, and it either did well or it didn't. Now I'm creating up to five different pins per post, and one of them usually does really well. So, and the others may not. And so I'm finding that creating different pins actually is working well. And so for that reason, I try to take a
A question. everybody, we
Well,
hear the word that
yeah.
long pens are out, but do you find that long pens still work?
I find them, oh, geez. So I was doing 600 by 900
Yes.
pixels for a while. They were not working well for
Okay.
me. And so I actually do 700 by
Okay.
1450, and they're doing much, much, much
Oh,
better.
interesting. I wonder what the
Yep.
difference
So
is.
I think just, I, I, I don't know. And my 600 by 900, I was usually using one image, and I'm just finding that two images just does
Two
much better.
images with a 700 by or 400. Do you say 700 by
1450.
1450? Wow.
Yeah, yeah.
But still, I love that you're doing this. And when you say 5 pins per post, I assume that means in addition to the photos that are actually on the page, or are those just the photos?
Oh, no, exactly. So my 5 pins are ones that I create in PicMonkey. Is that what you mean? Like
Yes.
not just the
Do they
yes,
reside on the
yep.
post
So
as
they're
well?
I choose one that I think will do the best and put that on the post, and I force pin it with
Yes.
Social Pug.
Yep.
Um, so and then if I remember to, I'll switch it out with one that might be doing better if it's hard to remember that. But I try to do my best guess on which one will do best and just have that be the force pin
Yes.
on that post.
Right. And then the rest of those four that you're talking about are just photos that are on that page that people can share.
No, they're all collages. So all
Oh,
and I upload them directly to Pinterest.
okay. Got you. Wow. That's a lot of work per post.
It it is a lot of work. It's like the more, but it's panning out to it. You put all of this work into one post. It's like it's worth the effort because it just makes it do so much better.
Yes.
At least I'm finding.
Honestly, in some ways, what I'm hearing you say is that it sounds like um, tweaking these older posts that you have that have potential. Obviously, you don't want to just pick any post, a
Hmm.
post that has some potential, um, as maybe even just as beneficial as creating a brand new post.
Absolutely. Something that Casey told me is, work smarter, not harder.
Yeah.
So if you have a great post that did well, just kind of fix the post up. You can always
Yep.
improve it in one way or another. And yeah, just take the existing images and create new pins. And like I said, I've seen really good results from doing that.
I love that. Okay, so if I just want to ask you this question, because I feel like what we're talking about a lot today is mindset focused. In other words, it's easy for us to sit in our little world and think, I just can't do this because she's doing well because she's naturally talented, or her blog is taken off because she's just really popular, or whatever. These kind of intrinsic values. But I think what we're talking about today is that this growth mindset where you can actually grow the skills that you need to do what you want to do. And I'm just curious if somebody's out there struggling right now, what advice would you give them?
Yeah, I think it's very easy to look at quote like successful bloggers and say, it's easier for them because of
Yes.
this. And it's not. It's not. And they're struggling, they've they may be farther along in the process than you, but it doesn't mean that you can't get there. You can get there, and I like to always just tell myself if they can do it, I can do it. But you really do have to believe
Yeah, and
that.
then it's actually proof that it can be done.
Oh yeah. I mean, for sure. It's from coming from someone that did everything wrong in the beginning for 2 years. I did everything wrong. I throw it all in the trash. It was all wrong. It was I mean, I
Yes.
learned. So it's not, but it just really takes that hard work, and but you do have to, have that strong desire to do it and believe in yourself, but it can 100% be done. I got down on myself so many
Oh,
times. I used to just think like, if I could only be them, if I could only be as big as they are. And there's always going to be someone bigger than you,
yes.
like there's always going to be, the
Right.
next. But that's what makes it fun for me too. Like that's what makes it fun because now what's the next goal? What's the next goal? You can get there, just don't give up. And there are so many resources out there now too, and so many groups and Facebook groups to join for support. And I've said it a few times, but the conferences really help you meet people who are in the same boat that become your friends outside of the conference. And I think every person has been there
Yes.
where they've been like, I want to quit. This is too much. I was talking to one of these big bloggers at one of these conferences, and she was telling me, oh, I don't know how much longer I can do this. Blogging is so different than it was when I
Oh,
started. It's she almost looks at the younger kids, we'll call them, and say, it's easier for them because they know how to do all this
Oh,
stuff. I have to relearn everything and redo everything. And
wow.
so it's not easy for anybody.
Wow, that's huge. Just hearing that makes me, like you say, it's so easy to look at them and think they've got it easy. And then she's looking at other people saying they've got it easy.
Yes, 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 yes. It's the grass is always greener
Yes,
sometimes.
and that mindset it actually can be really dangerous because I like I say I keep thinking about you getting these rejections from Food Gawker. You could have quit and then you would still be a business analyst somewhere. And that's okay. It's not terrible, but you wouldn't be living your
Right,
dream.
right. No, I think about that every single
Wow.
day. And, I'm proud of myself. And I think like that's the best feeling that you can have is to be proud of yourself. And so as lonely as it can be to be a food blogger, because you're your own boss, but it's also like very rewarding too.
Oh, and tell me I'm just curious, what are some of the things that you love about being a food blogger? You say it's very rewarding. I know financially it can be
Mhm.
rewarding, but what are some of the other things that you love?
I love the challenge of it because there's never, actually my dad said, "How you doing? I was afraid you'd get bored." And it's just funny because there's
I
no getting
wish.
bored. There's always, yeah, I wish. I would love to know what that
Yeah.
feels like. No, I'm kidding. Actually, what I love about it is that it's not boring at all. There's always challenges. There's always ways that you can grow and you can take it anywhere. I mean, I love how you've started the podcast and, I could, what if I wanted to start a podcast one day? I don't, but I'm
You
just
could.
like,
You totally could.
I'm just saying you could do whatever you
Yeah.
want to do. And I think that's what's exciting. You can, it's just every day is you make your own decisions and where you want to take it. Maybe you want to start a YouTube channel. I don't want to do that either, but maybe next year I will. Like you just never know.
Well, what I'm hearing though is like the same thing that could be a source of frustration, like in a corporate job, you're kind of like, this is your job. This is what you have to do. You're not going to do X, Y, and Z. You're going to just do this. And,
Hmm.
and so you have this freedom now to go, I can do whatever I want with this. This is my decision to make. That can be overwhelming, but it also can be really inspiring.
I 100% agree. Like I always need a challenge, and I actually remember before I left my job, I applied for the next level up, and I didn't get it. And I'm like, I need a challenge. I kind of also wanted to pursue the blog at the same time, but I couldn't not go for it because just whatever I'm doing, I like to be challenged at it. So, and that's what keeps me motivated in why I love blogging so much is that it's just always a challenge.
Oh, it's so true. And do you have days where the challenge gets you down or
Yes.
yeah, okay.
Absolutely. I have days where I'm like, I'm not feeling inspired. I'm not feeling motivated. I'm horrible at planning. I am horrible at, but you get good at kind of like lifting yourself back up. But you
Yes.
wouldn't be a human if you didn't have those days where you're like, just where am I going to go? Like, what's my next thing? What am I going to, I'm really bad at planning my next posts. So like right now, I know what my next recipe is going to be, but after that, I have no idea because I have to wait to be like really kind of inspired and like excited about it. So
Yes.
that just can't be forced. So some days I'm just like, oh, I don't know what my next post is going to be. What am I going to
Yes.
do? So definitely have those days.
I know I don't know if you've heard me talk about this, but I have created a spreadsheet since we're both kind of spreadsheet chicks anyway.
Yes.
The spreadsheet keeps me motivated. In fact, I'm right in the midst of a recipe week this week, and it's I have to admit I feel a little discouraged because it's so much work, but I'm gonna feel so good because now I'm gonna have 12 great recipes to be either updating or brand new
Oh.
on the site. So I'm excited.
Oh, that's amazing. That's my downfall. I mean, I have a tab of post ideas and
Yes.
the keyword research is done, but I need to wait to get excited about it. Like I'm like, oh, wow, that shrimp
Well,
scampi. No, like I don't want.
sometimes the way I get excited about it is like I gamify it by I put it on the spreadsheet where I'm tracking the progress that I'm making on have I tested the recipe? Have I drafted the
Yes.
recipe, and then have I shot the recipe
Right.
and have I created a recipe post? And so and it's the spreadsheet's constantly tracking my percent done. So then
Yeah.
I love it because then it's just like I'm just driving through to get to 100%.
Yeah, you're so like me with the spreadsheet thing. I
Yes.
think a lot of us work that way. It's really
Yes.
funny.
It's a god's I love spreadsheets. I could do it for everything.
Oh, I have 1 million tabs in one spreadsheet where I'm just like, I have a tab for everything, but I use every tab.
Yes, exactly. Why not, right?
And charts, and yeah, it's crazy town in there. I'm like was showing my husband one day and he's like, what? I'm tracking my own tracking. I track everything. Yeah.
Oh, I'm
But
just
it's
loving it. I just have,
yeah,
I just, there's something, when I hear other people talking about spreadsheets, I get all excited. I love it.
me too. And I have heard you talk about your process before, and I'm like, oh man, we are the same.
I'm thinking I
That's
might start
funny.
sharing about it on Instagram, on the Chopped podcast or Chopped Instagram account, just because I think people might enjoy seeing what it looks like to be in the midst of it. Because it gets pretty hectic. My kitchen is a mess and I get a little frustrated at times, but it's so worth it when I'm done.
I think that's a great idea. I would love to see. I think that I love seeing stuff like that. Like everyone would love seeing that.
Okay.
Like,
I'm going to do
and
that.
everyone can relate to that too, like the process of it all, whether you
Yes.
keep a spreadsheet or not. But like, the process, it's a process.
It is a process. That's right. And sometimes it's like what I feel like we're talking about today is this mindset. And sometimes I feel like I can easily get down in the dumps, and just feel overwhelmed. And there's nothing like working for yourself to bring all of that to the forefront.
Hmm. Absolutely. You're the only one in your own head all day, every day.
Yes. And we're making this stuff up and that feels a little scary at times, but so there, it's really, I think it's even more important for a food blogger to be very focused on her mindset. It really does make a big difference.
Oh, it does. And I think like just like getting out of the house and going for a walk, or, doing what you just, you got to do it.
Yes, and that's actually one of my goals is that I want to be able to get all these recipes done and then go work at a coffee shop and like write the post. I think that'll be fun.
I hear a lot of people recommending going to coffee shops. I have yet to do that.
Oh,
Honestly, I'm the worst. I don't even want to take the time to get in the car to go to and then park and then
yes.
get out and then start my computer. I'm like, oh, I just like I'd get so much
That's
more
too much
done if I
work.
just stay here. But it's like,
How long
but
was your commute before?
it was just like 10 minutes.
Oh, okay. Well, still. But you got a 3-year-old, so that makes it hard too.
Actually, yeah, my commute is still that because I bring her to daycare. I should just park at a coffee shop at that point and like do
Yes.
some writing. That actually is a good idea. I never thought of doing that.
Well, and I still go back to, and I'm going to have forgotten her name. I'll have to put this in the show notes page as well. But I interviewed somebody. She's with Cook the Story, and I don't know why I can't think of her name right now. But
Oh,
anyway,
okay. Yeah.
you know who
Right.
I'm talking about? Christine?
Yeah. Let me see.
Ah, that's going to drive me crazy. Well, anyway, she talks about how she actually writes her post as she goes on a walk.
Oh, no way.
Yes,
No.
seriously. There's a voice to text function on an iPhone. I don't know if you have an iPhone or not, but
Yes. Yeah.
and so she will actually she'll have like a list of the posts that she wants to write, and then she goes out and she turns on text to notes and writes. For each post, she'll have a different note and she'll just write out what she wants to say there, and then she sends it to an assistant who transcribes it into.
Oh,
I know.
oh,
I mean,
that's
it's already
awesome.
transcribed, so they just have to edit it. Yeah.
Right. Oh,
Yes.
and not to mention that's pretty productive too.
It's very productive, and she's out walking as she's writing her
Right.
podcast or her writing her
Exactly.
blog posts.
Well, like if I go, I'm walking the dog, that's when I do think about, all right, I'm going to go home and I'm going to write this down. But I don't actually do it on the walk. So
Yes.
that's a really good tip.
Yes. I love that one. It's one of my favorites, and I don't know if you're the same way too. We have a lot in common, it seems like. But in addition to being, loving spreadsheets and also being this kind of impulsive or physical, I think we talked about being physical learners. I am a
Yeah.
physical person. I feel like I feel my best when I'm not sitting in a computer all day. I need to be up and moving around.
Yeah. I can sit in
Yes.
front of a computer all day, like,
Yeah.
and actually don't mind it at all. But that becomes a problem
Yes.
because if I do it too long, it just doesn't make you feel very good.
Brandy Crawford mentioned to me that she got a treadmill. It's a working treadmill, so it has a
Oh,
desk on it, and
yep.
she could just walk at a very slow pace and also be on her computer. So that's another idea.
Oh, that's a great idea. And that's good for your back too. 'Cause sometimes my
Yes,
back is just like,
exactly. Yes.
whoa.
So that's on my goal list. I think it also folds up pretty nicely, so it's if when she's not in use.
Oh, cool. That
Yes.
is a good idea.
Oh, we're just whipping out the good ideas.
I love these tips.
I do too. Okay, so I have some fun questions I'd like to ask at the end of the interview. Are you game?
Oh, yeah, of
Okay,
course.
so tell me, what's your favorite food?
Oh, oh my gosh.
Yeah, it's too hard.
Can I say just I really like Oh, no. My favorite food is like Thanksgiving, like dinner.
Anything Thanksgiving related?
Yes.
Although that's
Turkey,
technically kind of a
potatoes,
group of foods, but I'll let it
wha-
go this one time.
all of them. We'll put them in a sandwich then.
So it's all the stuffing and the mashed
Yes.
potatoes and the gravy and
Yes.
all that stuff.
Yes. It's my
Pumpkin
favorite.
pie, everything.
Yes. Oh, yeah.
I bet. So does everybody come to your house for Thanksgiving then?
No. Oh, no. Well, so it's just me, my husband, and my daughter actually, because our families live far away. So
Oh,
I get to make food at home and um, the three of us enjoy it. And it's like the best day of the year. I
it
love it.
is. And it's the day nobody's talking about diets. We should just be enjoying ourselves, enjoying the food,
Yes.
right? And
Yes.
just
The
like,
parade is on and we watch movies. I love it.
yes, I love it.
Yeah.
And then you have so many great leftovers.
Oh, yes.
Ah,
Leftovers.
it's a great
Now I'm
day.
hungry.
Sorry. Okay. What's the favorite app on your phone?
Oh, geez. Now let me open my phone. I like Instagram. I'm going to go with Instagram.
Oh,
I
that's a
just
good
like
one.
flipping through it. Yeah.
Yes, it's a nice comfort app, isn't it? Like I just go on there.
Yeah. It's sometimes too much, and sometimes I need to not use it as much. But I actually didn't like Instagram at first, but it's really grown on me.
I love it. I'm so glad. Okay, do you have any time for TV or reading at all? And if you do, what's your favorite?
I love reality TV. And if I'm doing pictures during the day, I'll have it on in the background. So I well, gosh, like anything on the E network. I'm just like the Kardashians are always on,
So if
probably.
you're sitting there scheduling things to Pinterest, you've got that going on in the background.
Yeah, sometimes, or it's at least on, but it's on mute. If I have to like do the slightest bit of thinking, then it's going to be on mute. But if I'm
Yes,
taking pictures and then I'll have it on and on like the sound will actually be on.
it's kind of comforting, I guess. Huh?
Yeah, it just feels like people are there. That sounds so sad.
Your imaginary friends.
That sounds so sad.
Yes. So how can people find you online?
So my handle on everything is the Cozy Cook.
And that's Instagram, Facebook, all of that.
Instagram, Facebook, Pinterest, and thecozycook.com. And I forget YouTube, the handle for everything.
I
The
love it.
Cozy Cook.
Stephanie,
Yeah.
I have had such a great time. Thanks for taking the time to talk with me today.
Thank you.
Thanks to Stephanie Melchione for being my guest on today's episode of the Chopped Podcast. If you feel inspired by today's discussion and you also want to take your food blogging game up a notch, be sure and buy your seat in the Chopped Smart Keywords for Food Bloggers webinar. It's hosted by me and Brandy Crawford, and it's coming up this Thursday, October 24th at 1 p.m. Central. Claim your seat in the Smart Keywords webinar by going to chopped.academy/smart today. Thanks to everyone for your support of the Chop Podcast. I really love hearing from you that this show has made a difference for your food blogging career. If this is the case for you, head over to iTunes and leave a review. It really helps this show so much to get seen by more people. Also, if you're listening to today's show and you're loving it, take a screenshot and share it with me on Instagram using hashtag Chopped Academy or hashtag Namely Marley. I love hearing from you, and thanks so much for spreading the word. You inspire me, and I hope today's show was helpful and inspirational to you as well. Thanks for listening, and have a great week.